Hey, how's it going? All right, so you had many questions about Israel and why people quote unquote hate Israel. Um, I mean, there's a lot of things we have to discuss that ties into this topic, and it'll help clarify exactly why you think people have such a negative image of Israel. First of all, pertaining to the part of the question where you asked about um, the relationship or the unique relationship, I should say, between the U.S. and Israel. First of all, the way the U.S. works generally in D.C. is, lobbies have a strong influence on the congressmen and women that, make decisions for the country. Um, so some of these lobbies are stronger than others. A lobby in D.C. that's notorious is APAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. And APAC is arguably the most powerful lobby in DC. And they promote Israeli interests. And there's been a lot of controversy surrounding APAC. A really good book is called They Dare to Speak Out. It's by Paul Finley. And this book in detail discusses APAC and APAC's role. Paul Finley was an ex representative from Illinois for 22 years, and he tells you his story. I don't want to get into that in detail, but that's definitely a good book to look at. It's going to clarify the situation and really the relationship between Israel and the U.S. And so basically, um, these lobbies, this lobby, anybody that speaks against Israel or tries to promote even American interests, above Israel's, actually, you know, their careers basically end and they're paraded as, anti-American, the norm or the status quo of the U.S. because the status quo or the norm is to support Israel, and they ingrain that in the minds of the people, which is sad, especially when you see American interests being put on the back burner. For example, I don't know if you can see this guy, Paul McCloskey, right there between the lady and the guy on the right, Paul McCloskey. He was a senator from California who was a veteran, I think, in Korea or Vietnam. I'm not sure. And I believe he was a senator from California, and they were voting on a measure, I believe, something about passing money for Israel. I read this a long time ago. But he basically spoke against it, and he said, we have people here in this country, in the United States, that need the money more than other people that we're sending to overseas. Because obviously, the point of the government is to take care of your own people. Um, and he got paraded around the country as like some kind of lunatic, crazy person who was anti-American value and anti our friend in Israel. I remind you, this person was a veteran. Um, the other thing is, Israel. They talk about the Jews. They talk about a Holocaust that happened in Germany, which was wrong. No one's going to debate. I'm not going to be one of those crazy people who tell you that didn't happen. I would argue on how much people, and if the numbers were exaggerated, yeah, I'll argue that, but I won't argue it didn't happen, and I won't argue the fact that it wasn't wrong and inhumane. But look, they came to Palestine, and since 1949, whenever Israel was established, I can't make sure I'm not sure on the top of my head, but they basically committed another Holocaust in Palestine and continued to do so. There were villages that were wiped off the map in Palestine, and it was the largest exodus of people in the world. I mean, it's just crazy that people just, um, stand by that today. They talk about the Holocaust. Holocaust. There's a Holocaust happening right now. People don't talk about it. You know, you can't just tell people to leave. If somebody came to your house, you can't tell him leave. And I have claim to this land religiously, especially when the West is all about separation of church and state, but not when it comes to the Jews. The Jews have a special treatment. I mean, I'm not against any of that. I'm just for fairness personally. This video is getting way too long, 5 minutes. This is a very deep issue. I hope this gave you some insight, and I think that the things that I mentioned in this video, you can sort of search on your own, and it'll give you a lot of clarification and a lot of interesting knowledge, because this topic, I believe, is very deep and very interesting. Anyway, I'm lagging forward. I hope this clarified. Take it easy. Bye.